Many times I get asked the question, Walter, what sort of soil do you use? Or like, Walter, what is your feeding scheme? Or how often do you water and how do you water? And my answer is like this, how much time have you got? I'm sorry, we have to speak about this for about 30 minutes because a simple answer would be a poor answer because it would be misleading you and can be outright dangerous. Substrate and soil, substrate, soil, watering and feeding are all in complex interrelation, meaning you cannot do one thing without seeing the other thing. Okay, well, let's start with substrate. Now, why do I say substrate and not soil? Because we actually don't use soil. So I do call it substrate because you never ever use soil in bonsai. I must stress this because many people will not believe me. I see this often that they take akadama and then add a little soil because the tree needs it. Why does the tree need it? Because out in nature all trees are in soil, so how can you possibly say that a tree cannot grow in soil? Well, I have not invented this. This is nowadays present state-of-the-art gardening horticulture technique to plant plants into substrate. All the tomatoes that you buy in Europe from Holland have never seen a single piece of soil. And so the trees grow much better in substrate than in soil. Why is that? A tree needs a lot of water, but it does not like too much water around the roots for a long time period. Why that? Because the roots, that's something that many people don't know, have to breathe. Like you have to breathe and you need oxygen, so do the roots. And if there's water around the roots and the water is a bit old and stale and does not contain oxygen, then the roots will suffocate. You have to imagine yourself under the soil. So you are in a big pot, okay? But around you is soil or substrate or whatever, okay? And you're sitting there and breathe, and where does the air come from? The air can only come from little holes in between your surrounding. If there are no holes, you will suffocate. Aha! This is why you need a larger grain than you think, and do not want any dust particles. Everybody has read about sieving soil. Well, why? They don't tell you why. This is because you don't want all these holes to be filled with little dust thing, so that you cannot then not breathe anymore. Now imagine you being a root and you have to breathe. You would be very happy if there were lots of holes where the air can come through. Okay, this is one main reason why you have this substrate and not soil. The next thing is, if you are sitting in water and the water is coming up to here, you wouldn't like it. So you would be very happy if there were many holes around you so the water can flow away. Okay, so the core substrate is for two reasons. One, to always get oxygen to the roots, and second, always have a well-draining soil or substrate so that water does not fill up in the container. Okay, so what exactly is substrate? Well, substrate is a common name for many things that can be used. The first modern substrate that was used was akadama. Akadama is a certain soil that you find in the nature of Japan, and that has a certain particle size, and it's hard, and you can use it very well for bonsai. The Japanese use it very extensively, and it's also sold in many other countries. It's not cheap, and it has one disadvantage. The cheap akadama will disintegrate, will decompose After a while, after a few years, especially when it's freezing and wet, it will just fall into dust and then will be dangerous even. Okay, so you will have to repot trees quite frequently if you ever use akadama. You can use it for young trees, for deciduous trees. Be careful with conifers, because conifers, especially collected ones, will not be repotted in a long time. I actually don't repot trees in 10 years or so. Now, if I used akadama, that would be deadly. So it's really poisonous for this sort of trees.